Hey, if you'd like to earn CEUs for this webinar, join the Safeopedia community at the link in the description below. Now, on to the show.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to thank a lot of people for connecting with me. It makes me feel comfortable. And I think that sort of plays into some of our previous talks about where we heard the importance of when we talk about safety, it's really about people. So, a couple questions for you. How are you encouraging or promoting community in your workplace? Is your organization becoming more cohesive? Do your teams in the field or on the floor, do they stick together? Do they collaborate, learn from each other, achieve more than they have in the past? So why is this important? We're going to talk about pre-task planning meetings. These are sometimes called JHAs or JSAs, safety meetings, goes by many names, but it's really the foundation for the performance that's going to take place over the course of the day. Today, we're going to discuss how AI is used to assist leaders and teams to have more engaged and effective planning meetings, toolbox talks that are relevant to the work being performed, and safety observations that reveal more aspects of the work. So my background, as Jamie talked about, I've been around a while, 30 years in nuclear operations, another 10 years or so in insurance risk engineering, safety consultant for 10 years in general industry and construction. So I've been in many different workplace communities, even communities within communities. But the thing that I've learned is what separates a real strong performing organization from a lesser one is language. The words you choose, the structure of the message, how you make someone feel. All that comes together to build the community that you desire. We're going to talk a little bit about Factor Lab now, Chuck.
Okay. I'll just give a little bit of extra background on mine. Again, I didn't start when I was 2 like Tom did, but I do have 30 years of working with organizations to help them use technology to facilitate culture change. And as you know, if you have an amazing culture, you're going to have good community. And part of that is getting people to talk. And like I've said for many years, safety culture is all about the conversation. And I think we have a lot of communication going on in safety, but not a lot of conversation. And today, Tom and I are going to talk about how conversation can build community and a host of other things. But I'll speak a little bit about our company, Factor Lab. It's not just a software vendor, right? We do a lot of research. We do a lot of research in data science. We do a lot of research in the latest AI technologies, natural language processing. Essentially, we're a laboratory, right? So we identify those factors which our organizations that we work with are really trying to improve. And we develop these people-centered applications to help facilitate that change, to help answer the questions, to help address the problems that we're having. And one of our applications is Smart Target. Tom, you want to kind of briefly talk about that?
Yeah, there's leaders and teams throughout North America use our tool. They record their planning meetings, safety meetings, observations. Our technology analyzes the language to identify that level of engagement and effectiveness of that conversation. The data is used by the organization and individuals to celebrate good participation, the leadership styles, the effectiveness of the communication, and the engagement of the team. I was working with one organization and I really liked the meetings by this one supervisor. I got a hold of him and I asked him how he developed his style. And he said, our team of supervisors, which was like a community within the community, right? We compete to have the best planning meeting. He says, I check my scores and see where I need to get better. And that's the real demonstration of the benefit of converging the ideas in the data science, the technology, and it's coming together at that human performance center. So that's what's really exciting about my job and what I'm doing here.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun work that we do. And we're going to start off with a really interesting question for everyone in the room.
Yeah, most of the time these pre-task plans are written. Are they useful? So, probably most organizations really have a strong feeling on this idea of written documentation, and sometimes it's required. Some organizations really believe that the document with some signatures provides evidence of leaders and teams' engagement in the work of the day. You will see that this is not always the case. We're going to show you how to help leaders and teams have better conversations through more information on demand.
Okay, so let's go over the agenda for today. We're going to first kind of overview the challenge that a lot of people have with these planning meetings in the morning, whatever you call them. Then we're going to tell you about some of the research that we're doing with the latest AI to help augment critical thinking. And we call that PTP Assist. And then we're going to tell you some of the preliminary feedback from our pilot that has been kind of pioneering this AI technology. And then we talk a little bit about, when you think about building a community, right, trying to get people to have better conversations about safety, who's going to benefit the most from using this latest AI technology? And then the last thing we're going to talk about is we're going to invite everybody on this call to a research project. Like I said, Factor Lab, we're going to try to identify which factors are influencing the use of our AI to really augment some of this critical thinking, really creating an easier way for people to manage the information. So let's go over some of the challenges first. When you think about the typical pre-task plan, that's what PTP means, you have a group of people that either start of the shift meeting, or it could be a construction crew that gets together in the morning and they go over certain things. Now, the poll that I asked in the beginning of the question is, are these valuable to the leaders? Do the leaders who are running these pre-task plans, do they see this activity as valuable? And then do the actual employees or crew members see it as valuable? Let me give you an example. This is what I would call a typical, not everyone does it this way, but.
This label will now be found on chemicals and products that the company purchases. This should be the only label you see after December 1st, 2015. The elements that you will find required on all labels include pictograms, product identifier, signal word, hazard statement, precautionary statement, first aid statement, and supplier information. You may review the example label provided below for a better understanding of what the new labels will look like. Remember, until December 1st, 2015, you may still find products with the old labeling system in place.
All right, I can barely watch for too long.
System label.
Let me just pause this here. When you think about this, and Tom and I affectionately call the people that are attending this rock kickers because, they're just standing around waiting for the work to start. Now, when you ask yourself the importance of these morning conversations, think about this. This is the time for your leadership to A, make sure that people are plugged in for the day, B, to really exhibit some of their leadership capabilities to help do the planning, to help identify hazards and controls, and really set the stage for a positive experience for the day. But unfortunately, a lot of them are like this. And Tom and I have watched thousands of videos. So is this really serving the intended purpose? Right? And then you have to ask yourself, it's not this guy's fault, right? He's just doing what he thinks we want. So how does this happen? Well, I think over time, these processes kind of get watered down and people are just doing it and just checking off the box. Tom, tell us about this situation.
This is a great example of checking off the box. So there was a safety supervisor thought that this was exactly what's happening. People are checking off the box. He put this note. It says, if you read this, you can have the money. And he put a $20 bill on it and clipped it and turned it face down on the table. He put the form side up with the signature blanks on it. No one took the $20. Everybody just signed the paper, didn't read the instructions. So, it just proves that people, as Chuck said, it gets watered down. You get complacent. You don't see value in what's happening. The organizational challenge really is building community. The organization's got to lead. It's got to let the field know what's the desired performance. The desired workplace community has good information, has high level of engagement. There's active participation with questions, and sometimes there's alternative points of views or a better idea. What can we do to help leaders and teams become more engaged and more effective?
Absolutely. And then when it comes to the actual written part, I mean, how well is that done, Tom? I mean, you've seen hundreds of these in your career.
Yeah, it's usually, one person might write it down and it's going to be very brief, very concise. And I think over time, we've gotten down from a sentence down to a phrase or two to describe what our safety plan is, wear PPE, for example. And you'll see some examples of this a little bit later on.
Absolutely. They're just going through the motions, right?
Yep.
And does this really, I mean, for people writing this down, they're not writing it down as a group, are they? Right?
No.
Sometimes these guys fill it out even before they go to their job, right? They fill it out for the whole week or photocopy it.
Yep, exactly. So you lose that whole benefit of having a conversation to talk about what's going to occur that day. The thing is, it might be repetitive work, but conditions change. What the weather changes, the environment changes. You might have other trades in the area. There might be material problems, the availability of it. A lot of things come into play, and it's those ancillary things that affect the outcome of the job as well. And you learn more about that when you have a conversation.
Absolutely. So we were looking at different ways of making this more efficient, more effective to get more engagement. And one of the things that we realized is that with some of the latest AI technology, we can make it a whole lot easier for people to get the information in real time instead of having to write it out every day and maybe just taking a shortcut and saying, yeah, we're hanging drywall. You need to wear your PPE. Right.
It's that whole idea of when we talk about the PTP assist. Many times there's a lot of things on the mind of a leader. He's got to get through the morning meeting, but he's also got to make another meeting with the superintendent, or there may be duties that he's got to attend to, things that cause him to maybe lose sight of an important aspect of the job.
Absolutely. And, you know, sometimes, Tom, the people that are running these pretest plans, you know, they're not, you know, scholarly people, right? There are doers. And sometimes people are really uncomfortable writing, right? Either the lack of spelling, or they may be afraid that they're going to look bad, or they might not be thorough enough.
Yep.
So again, sometimes it's hard to read, as you can see in this example. So what we're trying to do at FactorLab is try to make it a lot easier to let the people have conversations. Instead of having to waste the 5-10 minutes of writing it out, what can we do to facilitate that so they can get right to the conversation? And that's what we're going to cover right now. We call it PTP Assist. It's using AI to augment the critical thinking. And really what it is a way to get the information into the people's hands, and then they can look at it, edit it, update it, add some color commentary, and then they can get to the conversation, which is the meat of this whole process. So let me introduce to you our PTP Assist. Can everyone see the app that I just pulled up?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So this is the application. We call it Smart Tag It. Now you can see on the front, it looks a lot like any other social media app. You can see Teresa and John are doing their PTPs in the morning. You can like it, you can write comments, you can share it within your organization, and you can start if you really like what Teresa wrote and use it later. But what we want to do is make it as easy as possible for people to jump into their pretest planning, right? To make it as efficient as possible. So essentially, they click start, you click the project you're on, the department you're in, the division you're on, or whatever the case may be. And then you have some examples here. So we're going to go into PTP Assist. And essentially, what people would do here is they'd have to write out all of the stuff that they're going to work on and some of the other minutia, right? So let's take an example. What about excavating a trench? So let's see what the enhanced text does. So people, like I said before, they'd have to spend their time going, okay, now I've done trenching before. It's been a while. Let me see if I remember what I need to be doing. All right, I need to do something about shoring. I need to make sure there's excavation around. There's something about the soil condition. And so this pops up. Instead, what I can do is take a look at this and say, okay, yeah, preparing the site, got to clear the area, mark the trench. You know, I can go in here and add stuff if I wanted to, but this makes it easy for people to kind of get a head start. This is like the Siri of safety, right? Siri, show me excavating a trench, and boom, it pops up. Now, what's cool is it not only shows you the scope of the work, but it identifies some potential hazards and identifies some potential controls. And to build community, what do we have? Questions for discussion, right? So how can we ensure that all the workers are properly trained? What are the measures we can take to prevent cave-ins and ensure the stability of the trench, right? So we can use this as it is. We can merge it with what we've already wrote, or if we don't like it, we can try it again. Now, another thing that you might think would be a thing that would get in the way of community is a lot of the crews or a lot of the organizations we work with have multiple different languages spoken. And sometimes when you talk about diversity in the workforce, if people aren't as comfortable speaking English as maybe a lot of people, they may be hesitant to ask questions. They may be hesitant to say, you know, I'm not really sure I understand what you mean. So why not let the technology handle that? So let's do So if there's any questions in the field, or you're not quite sure that your crew got it 100%, you're reading that body language and you're thinking, not quite sure I got my message across, you can just say, hey, take a look at this. Let's go over this together. Since you just read it, you kind of know what it says. And this gives people an opportunity to say, oh, wait, let me ask a question about, cave-ins. What is that, focusing on? So again, the idea here is if we make it easy for people to get the written stuff, right, done, then we can get on to the conversation. And that is what's going to be the game changer. Tom, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think it really gets back to that idea of it's meant to be an assist. We know people know the job, but being able to communicate it in a effective and engaging manner. When you talk about community, it's about making everybody better and continuing to improve. And my experience, when you have that higher level of engagement, the more effective your job is going to be. So when we talk about the job, my background was grounded in operations. So I always think that, you got to have the production aspect, but you also have to the safety and the quality aspect too. And all this comes together in my mind to build that idea of a stronger community, a more effective community where you share ideas and so on.
Absolutely. So we developed this new form of doing the written pretest plan, and we sent it out to some of our partners who've been working with us for a while. We said, hey, try this out and tell us what you think. Being kind of the laboratory that we have, here's some of the preliminary feedback and results. This is a contractor, right? He has a variety of construction crews. So from the AI generated results, the written part, right? They really said, when we have somebody filling in the gaps, it allows us to identify places that we might not have thought of, or also things that we hadn't considered for this particular thing. Or if something's not relevant, we can always get rid of it. So it catches what we may have missed previously, and the ability to have it in multiple languages people really loved. And it doesn't slow you down for repetitive work. I mean, I remember working with a GC, and I was doing a site visit, and these guys were hanging sheetrock, and I looked at their I looked at their pretest plan, and it said hanging sheetrock. I looked at it for yesterday, it had said hanging sheetrock. I looked at it for the day before, hanging sheetrock. Right? I mean, a lot of people say, well, we're doing the same thing. Why do I have to write 50 pages when I'm doing the same thing? And that's where I see a lot of things get photocopied because they don't see the value in it. But to me, get the easy written stuff done and then get into the conversation. And that's the thing that I think is going to be really good. And it helps critical thinking. So what we're trying to do is create the environment so people can have higher impact conversations. Higher impact conversations, meaning that I can look beyond just the PPE. I can look beyond just getting the job done. And I can say, all right, what slowed us down yesterday that might get in our way of getting our stuff done today, right? What are some potential things that might bite us doing this task? And then finally, if you're going to use this in your documentation, it's a lot more professional, legible, usable. I mean, that's kind of some of the feedback that we got. Now, we asked the field guys, what did you guys think? Oh, yeah, it's awesome, right? There's zero training because they're doing exactly what they did before. They put in the task, except they hit that one extra button and boom, they had a whole lot more things. So it addressed concerns about critical thinking. This helps me, right? And it eliminated waste time and effort. And when you talk to the people in the field or the employees that are doing the work, what's the one thing they want? Make my job easier, make my life safer. and they really liked this. 250 times in a couple of weeks, nobody had any issues. I mean, as you can see, it is really useful.
It's that idea of critical
Go ahead.
thinking, and another way to look at it is building community. You're increasing knowledge. When you have the depth of detail on a scope of work, you're educating those newer members of the community, of the crew.
Yeah.
So it all serves to just continually build upon that.
Absolutely. That is critical, right? So we also asked for recommendations, right? What are some things we could do? And a lot of people said, oh, use this as a force multiplier, right? How many people in the chat room have too many safety people? You have so much time you can just sit around because you have multiple people on every projects, departments, divisions, right? There's never enough people out there. So instead of that, we can help by providing them the information on the spot, right? They don't have to go back and look up stuff. They don't have to go things. They can just use this information. And the thing is, it can be customized, right? And it can be customized to your documentation, your country, your region. Anyway, another things that they said, competently describes the entire scope of work, right? And it also, with this one, they used a video to help record their pre-test plan conversations. So they can actually kind of brag how good they're doing, which is really cool. Now, what we did is we actually took the written and we compared it with the AI results. And we, there's definitely not a comparison here, but here's the typical written PTP. What are you doing? Lighting inspection. What are we doing? Checking all lighting, replacing outage, using polarizer. What's the hazard? Slips and falls. What's the safety plan? Wear proper PPE. Safety glasses, shoes, masks. Yeah, just wear PPE, right? Now, compare that with this, right? Scope of work is the exhaust fan preventative maintenance. So if I'm going to PM an exhaust fan, here's my work steps, here's my hazards, here's my controls. Now, another thing that I'd like to point out is that even if people do write a really good pre-test plan, is that what actually gets talked about? I mean, honestly, I've seen some really detailed pre-test plans, and then when I sit in and listen to it, like, okay, does anyone have any questions? All right, what do we need to look out for? Slips, trips. All right, how are we going to control that? Pick up stuff. Okay, let's get to work. Here's another example. Measure perimeter areas, assemble tracks. Again, same things, same safety plan, much better result. Provides them a little bit more detail, I would think. So some of the other benefits that we learned when we started, developing this AI, we can be used for a variety of different things. For example, we have some toolbox talks. So say, for instance, I want to do a toolbox talk on heat stress. So instead of, Tom, how are toolbox talks usually done?
Well, the ones I used to make, I had to make sure I filled one page and had enough lines on the backside so everybody could sign it. Pretty straightforward.
Right. Or people send out 52 toolbox talks, one per week, right?
Yep.
And so, all right, week number 26, I have to do heat stress, and it's February in Wisconsin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So again, this is simple, right? It gives you the example, recognizing symptoms, preventative measures, kind of a really good detailed toolbox talk. And then again, you can always merge it or add some more stuff to it. Another thing that we do is you might take a look at regulations. So maybe you haven't done excavation before, and you're a brand new safety pro, and you're out there and you just want to double check. So let's take a look and see what exactly there is in the OSHA that might help. I mean, if you think about it, going through all the OSHA regulations may be a little bit cumbersome for everything you're doing. And you can see here that they say, well, we can't give you all the information because it's copywritten, but here are the things you might want to consider, right? Protective systems, access and egress, hazardous atmospheres, inspections, right again at your fingertips. And I think that is really useful. Again, you might have a foreman do this, or someone that's on the project that just wants to double check what, OSHA might say. And also you can enter precursors. So if I'm doing some excavating, hold on, let me go up here, precursors. Corey mentioned HOP, right? So if you're identifying some of the precursors to SIFs, serious incidents and fatalities, what are some things that we might want to focus on so that we can identify those, what do you call them, purple dragons? Or was that the white slugs?
White slugs, purple dragons, black swans.
That's right. I can't remember which one would be identifying it. But again, this gives you the precursors to excavating a trench. So again, there's a lot of ways that people can use this, and it really supplements what you already know. This might be just a double check. And then, I said here it can be customized to the industry. We actually, they're probably not going to do any excavating on a fishing boat. So let's do a different example. How about this? So what's interesting, of course, with AI, it'll go out and put it in the industry that you're in. And we were piloting some of this up in the cold waters. And now this is pulling from the Canadian life-saving equipment regulations. So in Canada, the regulations regarding life-saving equipment and gives you the information that is specific to the industry, right? So you have PFDs, life rafts. Now, so we might be, talking about this on a fishing boat, but so maybe you're up in French Canada, up in parts of Quebec that are our French-speaking friends. You can say, c'est bon. That's about all I know of my French.
Well, the point is, it reaches many communities. We gave you a couple of examples of Spanish and French. It works for others.
Yeah. And, we have safety observations on here too. So what you might do is just say, hey, give me a safety checklist for excavating a trench. So instead of having a safety checklist that has 400 items on it, and you have to scroll through to find the one thing that you're looking for, you can just get the stuff that you need right at your fingertips. So here are the things that we need to look at. So if you're doing a hazard inspection, a safety walk around, here's some things that we might want to focus on. That is kind of the AI assist different examples that we have. And if you think about who's going to benefit the most from this, there's a lot, right? AI can help with limited safety resources. Maybe you don't have enough safety people around. It can help with newer organizations that maybe don't have all the resources. Maybe your HR person is doing safety and HR and quality. So this might help out with some of the newer organizations that don't quite have their staff built out yet. Can help out with people that need experience. We're trying to get more and more people to get out there and, get their feet wet. This can help facilitate that conversation. And also with mixed languages. I was talking to a CSO, Chief Safety Officer. This is a guy up in Boston, and he said, I have to deal with diversity issues, right? This is a game changer when it comes to diversity. A lot of my folks, they don't have a voice. They don't have a voice because they're afraid of saying something wrong. They're afraid of looking bad. They're afraid of making their supervisor look bad, so they don't want to ask a question. This opens it up. This creates an environment where people are more comfortable having a conversation. They feel more part of the community, right? And it's really interesting. Tom and I have looked, and we have the technology to be able to not only transcribe conversations, but also translate them. So if people are giving a pretest plan in Spanish, we can have it transcribed and translated, and we can understand what they're saying. And you wouldn't believe some of the caring conversations that go on that we would miss, that we would completely miss. So I think that is where we come to when it comes to this research project. We would like your help to see if this is something that is usable, that people can find value in, get any more feedback. Tom, you want to tell us about some of the research questions we're going to be asking?
Sure. We're looking for, is this really beneficial? We want real life stories of how it was. Is there anything that you ran up against that caused a problem? How did your field teams or floor teams see it? Was there a preference that they had? Was there something that you didn't expect to learn that occurred with it? Did it save you time?
Yeah.
So all that kind of type of feedback is what we're interested in getting back from you.
Okay, so if you would like to participate, we're offering our community here to use this AI PTP Assist for free for 6 months, customized to your PTP process, no obligations, up to 100 written pretest plans a month, right? And then at the end of the study, we're going to gather the feedback and benchmarking and results and feed it back to the people and give you some idea on where this might be going. So if you are interested, you can always click this little QR code, hold your phone up there, and or you can stop by our booth and we can give you information on that. We have other learning resources. Tom did this amazing series on how to have effective daily planning conversations. So if you're really interested in improving your conversations in the morning, take a look. His series is awesome, top notch. I'm just bragging on you, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you.